This is United Network News with Sunny Galt, Calen, Kimberly Gogan, and our field messengers from around the world. Here's today's real news.
Plastic is everywhere these days. Packaging, clothes, beauty products, you name it. It's affordable and versatile, which makes it a go-to in our daily lives. However, more than 280 million tons of plastic waste are produced annually, and a staggering 46% ends up in landfills, while 22% becomes litter. Unlike other materials, plastic can take up to 1,000 years to break down, so it just keeps piling up. This pollution harms marine wildlife, damages soil, and contaminates groundwater, posing serious health risks for humans.
For years, we were all made to think that recycling plastic was the perfect way to deal with plastic waste. Ads and campaigns strongly promoted the idea that plastic products were highly recyclable. They convinced us to recycle, promising it would make a big environmental impact. But as it turns out, that was mostly just a myth.
Hi guys. This symbol is misleading and has been exploited for the past 5 decades. Let me explain. This triangular loop of tracing arrows was designed by a college student in 1970 in a contest to promote paper recycling. Coincidentally, the 1970s is also when plastic started to get a bad rap. To save face, plastic companies started to push for recycling campaigns, including slapping this symbol onto as many plastic products as possible. They created 7 symbols for 7 categories of plastic, all looking like the famous recycling logo, giving the false impression that they are all recyclable. But not all of them are. In most cases, PET and HDPE are usually recycled, but other types of plastics are either too difficult to recycle or it depends on the recycling facilities themselves. In fact, it is now the consumer's responsibility to find out what that little number is inside the arrow and then figure out if the plastic type can be recycled or not. Some believe that this misleading move was intentional so that the demand for plastic products can continue because, hey, it's okay to use more plastics because we can recycle all of them. Recycling, if done right, can be good, but the reality is not as simple as you think.
Recently, California took a stand against ExxonMobil, a huge player in the fossil fuel scene, for misleading the public about how recyclable plastics truly are. The state accuses the company of significantly contributing to the plastic pollution crisis by painting a rosy picture of plastic recycling, which is far from reality. Experts say only 5% of U.S. plastic waste is truly recycled. Most of it ends up cluttering landfills and oceans.
They lied to us about plastic recycling, and finally, they're getting sued for it. The case involves ExxonMobil, the same oil giant that's on the hook for covering up the impacts of the climate crisis for decades. Only this case is about the plastic which oil is made from. Exxon is the largest producer of resins used for single-use plastic. The case is being led by California's Attorney General, Rob Bonta, who accuses ExxonMobil of a decades-long campaign of deception. In marketing, they promoted plastic recycling as a solution when they knew it couldn't be. An investigation found that nearly all the plastic waste processed by Exxon has been turned into fuel. That is, it was burnt. Now, this shouldn't be too surprising if you know that only 9% of plastic produced globally is recycled. California says that Exxon's marketing violated multiple state laws on water pollution, false advertisement, unfair competition, natural resources, and, my favorite one, being a state nuisance. Now, this isn't a call to arms for us all to start burning our plastic in a barrel, but it is a promising start towards recognizing that recycling isn't the only answer. What we really need is to reduce production as well.
The lawsuit aims to hold ExxonMobil responsible for encouraging people to buy more plastic under the illusion that these products are recyclable, thus boosting their profits while aggravating environmental devastation. The case builds on an investigation from early 2022 into how fossil fuel firms contribute to plastic pollution, shining a light on discrepancies between recycling claims and the environmental mess plastics cause. One eye-opening revelation is about advanced recycling, a so-called eco-friendly process that critics say is actually a greenwashing effort. Instead of turning plastic into new materials, it mostly converts it into fuels, which then, burned, add to pollution. This throws the myth of recycling success into question, as most plastics never get properly recycled.
We're suing you.
What?
Exxon insinuated that recycling could solve the plastic and pollution crisis when you well knew that wasn't possible.
Recycling totally does work.
So how much plastic is actually recyclable?
5%.
And what happens to the rest?
We do advanced recycling, which is like burning it, but like in a safe way.
Well, now there's microplastics in the ocean.
It's not all in the ocean. It's also in your lungs, in your blood, and for some people, they're both.
All right, enough. You lied to increase profits at the expense of the planet.
Hasn't oil been through enough? Like when we lose all that oil by spilling it, or when profits go down because there's not a war going on, and now we can't deceive people either?
Are you being for realsies right now?
The lawsuit seeks to stop the company from misleading statements about plastic recyclability and demands more honesty in the future. If successful, California hopes to secure an injunction to stop these actions and set up a fund to help clean ongoing plastic pollution and educate people more accurately about recycling. The suit might also mean the company has to give up profits made through these alleged tactics and pay civil penalties for accountability. The oil giant in question has responded by pointing fingers at the inefficiencies within the state's recycling system. The company's actions have serious environmental impacts, especially in California, where much coastal and marine pollution is linked to the company's products. Since 1985, more than 26 million pounds of trash have been collected from the state's beaches and waterways, with much of it being plastic waste. Further research into the effects of microplastics on health and the environment could also benefit from the outcome. Plastic pollution harms natural habitats and even enters the human body, with microplastics found in lungs and bloodstreams.
Did you know that plastics are now considered the #1 pollutant in the human body? And that the phthalates found in plastic can cause enormous damage in the body? Phthalates found in plastic can damage fatty acids, which are an important part of the cell membrane. It can cause zinc deficiency as well as cause hormone imbalances, specifically thyroid hormones, testosterone hormone, as well as estrogen. Also been found to damage the pancreas, which could contribute to diabetes as well as insulin resistance. Steps you can take to detoxify some of these plastics from your body include using an infrared sauna, as well as increasing your intake of cruciferous vegetables, which include these in order to support the body's detoxification processes.
California's lawsuit seeks to stop ExxonMobil's deceptive practices and impose penalties to address the environmental and public health damage. This lawsuit supports environmental groups also aiming to hold the company accountable. It's an important step toward better plastic waste management and corporate responsibility.
Imagine soaring through the skies in an air car. UNN Field Messenger Kim shows us some remarkable cars from her local auto show.
Hello, my name is Kim. I'm here at Detroit Auto Show 2023, and I'm only out here to come watch this flying car. However, there's no one here to demonstrate how it goes up in the air and fly through the air. So this is what they're going to be coming out with. It's pretty neat. Looks like a helicopter, actually. So they have a screen right here, and I guess you can go to that website to see how it operates, and they may give you more detail on it. But this is pretty neat. This is something different. You see how it looks going behind it? That's really neat. I like that. Here's another flying car.
This is the display model of what the actual car looks like. We have an actual flying car back in our facility in California. So how it flies is it's a combination of a car, a drone, and a plane. So you can drive it wherever you want, on the highway, on the street, in your community. And let's say you're facing traffic, you want to go fast. So you can take off like a helicopter. The car then rotates 90 degrees, goes ahead like a plane. The sides of the car are like wings. They have the cross section of an airfoil that gives you lift and the propellers give you propel. So we are waiting on the FAA to remove the rules and regulations for how flying cars will be moving, and depending on that, we are expecting the production to be starting in 2025 if everything goes correctly.
I guess this is the front end of the flying vehicle. Thank you for watching United News Network.
The Africa Aerospace and Defense Exhibition offers a platform for countries and companies to showcase their military capabilities. UNN Field Messenger John takes us on a tour of the exhibit.
Good day, this is John, Field Messenger from South Africa, coming to you from our African Air Force and Defense Show 2024, held annually here in South Africa. Normally there would be a bunch of airplanes flying around. However, as you can see behind me, it's overcast all around, and it's way too dangerous for these fast-flying airplanes and jets to be flying around at low altitudes. So yes, we've been left to walk around and explore these massive hangars, as you see behind me. And obviously within these hangars, you can actually get more information on a lot of defense companies and aeronautical companies from around the world. And yeah, there's a lot of information available, way too much for a quick video. So what I've done is just gone through the whole entire show, all the stalls all around me, and you will see some very interesting vehicles that are on show, like these here behind me, and we have that all over the place. So what I've done is I've taken a lot of photos to make it easier for you to see what's been put on display. This is, I think, the second last day of the show, and yes, due to the weather, many people have already left early and so on. And so hopefully the weather will improve, and so the attendance will improve now that the show is open to the public from today onwards. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so day one that is open to the public, and unfortunately not the greatest weather. However, there are some very, very interesting technologies on display, and yeah, it's just freezing cold. There's actually snow, snow all around in Durban, I think in Cape Town, all around Gauteng, which is where this is being held. So yes, let's see. There is some noise in the background, so apologies for that. Just wanted to bring some of these technologies to your attention, and yeah, a lot of things I was surprised about. One being, for example, the capabilities of some of these countries, even such as India. I know South Africa are pretty good with their military prowess and so on, and building some of these military machines. As you can see here in the background. So yeah, just wanted to bring this information through to you for those of you who don't have much of an idea of what technologies are out there in the military. Hopefully some of the pictures that I have on display and that will be put in and cut into this video will give you a better idea. So that's John from South Africa, Gauteng, South Africa, Pretoria, and signing out. Till next time. It's going to be up to me. So till next time, keep safe.
The historic steam train running through the Weser Valley in northern Romania dates back nearly a century, initially serving the forestry industry, but now attracting tourists. UNN Field Messenger Monica takes us on this scenic journey.
Hi, Monica here, Field Messenger for UNN, reporting from Romania. Have you ever ridden the Mokanitsa, the steam train in Maramuresh? That romantic little train, a kind of toy for grown-ups, in a small amusement park full of children's trains. Here it comes, whistling happily, with its few wagons full of even happier passengers. When they hear the train's whistle, people from nearby houses come out to smile and wave at you. Who or what could bind all these images into a single universe? The Mokanitsa, with its huge chimney and horse train whistle, puffing out clouds of steam. For a distance of almost 60 kilometers, the steam train, which, unlike many other steam trains, is powered by wood, still runs to this day. Wood are placed in a furnace, water is boiled, and the pressure sets the connecting rod crank mechanism in motion. The more steam, the faster the train. The Mokanitsa seems to come from another world, with its taps, its pressure gauge, its wood stove, its chimney, and its red and white wheels. A world full of charm. Since 2004, the line is now a major tourist attraction. I think the best time to ride the Mokanitsa and visit Maramuresh is in winter. The snow makes everything special, and the Christmas traditions are wonderful. Thank you for listening. See you next time.
For decades, the USDA's food pyramid has been a pillar in American nutrition guidance. The familiar triangular graphic of food categories was intended to simplify dietary choices and promote health. However, what was once seen as straightforward has since been scrutinized and criticized. Behind the iconic design lies a complex story involving politics, lobbying, and scientific controversy that has, in some cases, led to confusion and misdirected eating habits.
This is the original food pyramid released by the USDA in 1992. This wasn't the first time the USDA made food recommendations, but this version has had the most significant impact on public health. According to this pyramid, fats and oils should be used sparingly, followed by 2 to 3 servings per day of meat, milk, cheese, and nuts, 3 to 5 servings of vegetables, 2 to 4 servings of fruit, and a whopping 6 to 11 servings of bread, rice, and pasta. To fully understand how we got to this point, let's go back several decades to the 1950s. World War II was over, smoking was on the rise, and heart disease rapidly became the leading cause of death. President Eisenhower suffered a heart attack which shocked the nation. He smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day. Still, his heart attack gave scientists the ammunition they needed to declare war on saturated fats, claiming that was the cause of heart disease, even though people have been eating saturated fats from natural oils, animals, and dairy products for millennia.
And it was driven by this man, Ancel Keys, who was almost singularly responsible for growing that seed of poor research into the twisted mess of a food pyramid that we have. He was dogmatic, belligerent, and undeniably political. 3 qualities that he wielded bloody-mindedly to steamroll any dissenting views. And by that, I really mean any reasonable opposition to his outlandish claims. He repeatedly broke with the civil norms of academia to bully dissenting colleagues and almost brutally silence any opposition. And in the context of what was perceived to be a growing public emergency, being that of the unexplained cause of heart disease, health officials were receptive to his message. You see, 2 years before Eisenhower's heart attack, Ancel Keys had published a widely criticised graph plotting the average fat consumption in various countries against heart disease. The problem was that while he had plotted the data from 6 countries to make his point, the study's critics pointed out that at the time, data was actually available for 22 countries, And when the data from those 22 countries was plotted, as it was in this scientific rebuttal, it resembled more of a scatter plot.
Unfortunately, the details of this spotty research by Keyes wasn't fully released until 1978, 20 years later. In the meantime, Keyes became highly influential within the American Heart Association, whose policies were now driven by his research. It's also important to note the American Heart Association was sponsored by Procter & Gamble, the makers of Crisco, the extremely profitable vegetable oil shortening, an alternative to using saturated fats. Experts at the time thought educating people about good versus bad fats was too difficult, so they lumped all fats in the same category. And now you know why fats are at the top of the pyramid, and according to the USDA, should be used sparingly. But what about breads, rice, and grains? Why do these make up the base of the pyramid? In his first term, U.S. President Richard Nixon agreed to sell millions of bushels of grain to the Soviet Union. The USDA unleashed new policies to increase grain production. Government contracts were created, and before long, the U.S. had a massive surplus of grain. Originally, the USDA recommended 3 to 4 servings per day, but by the time the food pyramid was released, that number grew to 6 to 11 servings. Yeah, it helped with the surplus, but what about the cost to public health?
Get more scared because you start to understand how big the knowledge gaps are. Yeah. I've never recovered from finding out that the food pyramid was a scam.
Yeah.
That was just the degree to which that's a scam is, I don't know, is there a worse medical crime in history than that?
No. I mean, telling Americans to load up on 7 to 11 servings of grains every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. And to find out that was a marketing ploy by the Department of Agriculture and that they went against the advice even of their own consultants, who warned them that they would produce an epidemic of obesity and diabetes, which is, well, and not to say nothing of depression and dementia, which is exactly what we have now.
Exactly.
It's like, I don't know what you even do when you find out that that's true.
Yeah, and the unwarranted demonization of natural fat-containing foods, nutrient-dense foods like animal-sourced foods, which continue to be demonized.
Even by the American Diabetic is it Association Society? I don't remember.
Yeah, the ADA,
It's still pushing the notion that, diabetics can eat carbohydrates. Like, actually, I don't think so. I don't think that's a very good idea since they're converted to sugar.
And
for example,
and then they're essentially glucose intolerant, right? Like it's madness. And what that demonization of these like natural whole foods. I mean, we live in a time where 60% of the calories that your average American consumes comes from what are called ultra processed foods.
Right.
So
the center of the supermarket.
Exactly. The antithesis to whole foods, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that we're still demonizing whole foods to me is insane.
Yeah.
The original food pyramid from 1992 spurred a decade-long anti-fat, pro-carb movement. The government copied this pyramid and printed it on posters and textbooks that were distributed to all of its institutions, including public schools. This guide was everywhere, influencing every food item on dinner tables across the U.S. The pyramid's emphasis on carbs contributed to a surge in processed grains, white bread, and other foods high in refined carbohydrates. These foods have now been linked to spikes in blood sugar, weight gain, and even increased risk for diabetes and heart disease, indicating the original pyramid's carbohydrate-heavy guidance did more harm than good. The number of overweight Americans has risen 61% since the pyramid was introduced. So why did the U.S. government continue to endorse it? Enter the lobbyists.
So I, as a lobbyist on the conservative side of the aisle 15 years ago around this town here, was saying any infringement on the food companies was an attack on the free market. That was BS. They have rigged the market. They paid millions of dollars to Harvard to produce studies in the 70s and 80s and 90s saying sugar doesn't cause obesity. They then use those studies with Harvard to go to the USDA and buy them off to do a processed food marketing document, the food pyramid. And, all of our parents in the 90s thought it was just totally fine to feed their kids ultra-processed food, right? And that was actually following government guidelines. This was a very deliberate strategy. At the same time, the medical organizations like the American Diabetes Association and the American Academy of Pediatrics were not calling this out. They were taking money from food companies. I mean, it is still just astounding to me that 90% of the American Diabetes Association funding comes from food companies and pharma companies.
The smaller their section on the food pyramid, the more the lobbyists stepped up their efforts. The Dairy Council fought to increase the amount of dairy servings per day. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association fought hard not to be included in the same meaty section with chicken and fish. Potato trade groups did their best to stay within the vegetable category. Then, in 2005, due to all the pressure and money now associated with the food pyramid, the USDA tried again with a different type of pyramid.
The USDA tried again. They created the all-new My Pyramid Food Guidance System, an aesthetically vague rendition of their 1992 pyramid, but one that included a little guy walking up the side to encourage people to exercise. This new pyramid, while still pushing people to gorge themselves on bread, encouraged the consumption of whole grains instead of processed grains. What's more, it pushed dairy to a whopping 23% share of the new dietary guidelines, doubling what they'd recommended just 13 years prior, and raising questions of the food lobby's influence on the guidelines. My Pyramid also replaced the previously vague recommended servings with actual ounce and cup recommendations for each of its 6 categories.
In 2011, this new food pyramid was replaced once again with the USDA's My Plate campaign, which is still in use today. My Plate is a bit more basic and breaks dietary guidelines down into just 5 categories: fruits, vegetables, grains, proteins, and dairy. They reversed their 2005 decision to encourage more milk consumption, with dairy now having the smallest portion of the 5. According to the USDA, My Plate isn't meant to give specific one-size-fits-all dietary guidelines, but it serves as an encouragement for overall healthy eating.
Based on the My Plate recommendations, it would appear the federal government is stepping back from its pay-to-play vibe of food pyramid recommendations from the last 30 years. But that's not necessarily the case. A U.S. Supreme Court case in 2010 with Citizens United ruled that corporations and other outside groups can now spend unlimited money on political campaigns, further influencing how the USDA conducts its business. During the 2020 presidential election, the food lobby as a whole spent a whopping $175 million on political contributions. In today's complex healthcare world, understanding the tools at your disposal can be a game changer in managing health costs. One of these tools, although not widely talked about, is the letter of medical necessity. Think of it as a conversation starter between your doctor and insurance, detailing why you need a specific treatment or service. While they may sound intimidating at first, these letters essentially advocate for the patient's health needs, ensuring they receive the best possible care without unnecessary financial burdens.
A letter of medical necessity is important when seeking reimbursement for expenses not automatically covered by the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS, guidelines. This document can serve as your gateway to essential healthcare services by providing necessary proof to insurance companies or administrators of health savings accounts, HSA, and flexible spending accounts, FSA, to cover items they typically wouldn't.
What is an FSA or HSA account? These are accounts at which people have money set aside for healthcare for qualified medical expenses, okay? And they are tax-free. Oftentimes, individuals may contribute to it, and also sometimes their employers can contribute to it. So a lot of people may have a couple $1,000s that are just sitting in FSA and HSA accounts. that they're waiting for something to spend it on. And if you have an online coaching service that can help them with the problem they're experiencing, they can use this. This is huge.
So, how does it work? Essentially, a letter of medical necessity is written by a licensed medical professional and explains why a certain treatment, device, or service is necessary for your health. This isn't limited to your primary care doctor, though. Nurses, psychiatrists, and therapists can also write these letters, as long as their recommendations align with their area of expertise. For instance, a psychiatrist might endorse aromatherapy for anxiety, but wouldn't usually recommend a meal plan for physical health. One key area where letters of medical necessity come in handy is when trying to cover unconventional expenses. Here's an example of how this letter can be used.
A letter of medical necessity, LMN, is basically where you have your pediatrician and or your kid's therapist write reasons why the cubby bed is specifically going to work with your kids. I also had them list things that I've tried in the past to try to help the DME provider as well as insurance with reasons why other methods did not work with each of my kids. But basically you just go to the Cubby Bed website and you can create an account, and then they have a template for an LMN. But I basically listed off, like, I looked at what the different features were for the Cubby Bed, and then I listed off reasons why each of the features would greatly benefit my kids, and that's the route I went through. But yeah, basically your medical providers and or your kid's therapist can provide it.
The content of a letter of medical necessity usually contains detailed patient information, physician details, a description of the medical condition, diagnosis, recommended treatments, and an explanation of why the recommended intervention is necessary. Imagine getting a gym membership approved for health reasons. Start a healthy meal delivery service, or even trying acupuncture to help with insomnia. A letter of medical necessity might just open that door. However, these letters usually remain valid only for the duration of the prescribed treatment, or up to a year if no period is specified. So timely renewals are essential to avoid lapses in coverage. Once you have your letter, it should be sent to your HSA or FSA administrator, and you should keep a copy for your records as proof of eligible expenses. While a copy stays with your doctor, maintaining your version securely can prevent last-minute stress during tax season. New avenues are making this process easier. Platforms like TrueMed are simplifying the way letters of medical necessity are obtained without months of waiting for a doctor's appointment. With partnerships across health and wellness brands, these services are helping users take charge of their health, offering a straightforward medical evaluation that's both HSA and FSA eligible. This is one of the many ways individuals are empowered to make more informed choices about their wellness, ensuring affordability and accessibility remain within reach.
We started this company with the question of how can we drive medical dollars to trainers, to fitness, to people that are on the front lines of health. And what we've learned is that HSA, FSA dollars, which are a powerful instrument, there's $150 billion in these accounts. So we estimate about 40% to 50% of your clients have this money in their accounts. But what we found is the IRS actually has been very clear, and few people know this. They've been very clear that actually gym memberships, personal training, it counts with a letter of medical necessity. So you can buy drugs, you can buy contact solution, you can buy sunscreen lotion automatically. But for fitness, you have to have a letter. When exercise is doctor ordered, turn to your HSA, FSA. This is a real clear savings if there's a doctor's note. And what we drilled in and what TrueMed's doing is how can we deliver that doctor's note to your clients as easily as possible. So fundamentally, that's what we are. We are a telehealth service to provide that doctor's note.
TrueMed's approach focuses on modifying incentives to promote healthier lifestyles. It also encourages the use of health coaches and promotes smart supplementation, exercise, and metabolic wellness. The company leverages research from functional medicine and offers a seamless telehealth service, allowing patients to benefit from tax-free spending on approved health activities.
A letter of medical necessity can be essential when seeking insurance claims or reimbursements through tax-advantaged accounts. Therefore, understanding the Internal Revenue Service's medical expense eligibility requirements is important before requesting such a letter. Familiarity with these guidelines can prevent obstacles and smooth the path for reimbursement. For those navigating this space, educational resources on HSA and FSA qualified expenses are invaluable, providing clarity and direction in using them effectively.
Now it's your turn. Join our weekly meetings and become a field messenger. More information is available at our website, unitednetwork.earth. We're UNN, and we're taking back the news.